What do you think a man really feels when the woman he loves walks away? It's not just heartbreak, it feels like a collapse inside, as if the very ground beneath him has vanished. And if you've ever wondered why men carry this pain so silently, stay with me. I promise by the end of this video, you will see heartbreak in a way you've never seen before. And if this already resonates with you, subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. Because here is the truth. When a woman leaves, what breaks inside a man isn't just his relationship. It's an entire architecture of meaning, the silent cathedral he built around her presence. From the outside, he may look calm, composed, even stoic. But I have sat across from countless men, and I've seen it in their eyes, that quiet devastation that feels like death. Inside, the scaffolding of his identity trembles because she was never just someone he loved. She was, in Jung's language, the anima, the mirror of his soul, the bridge between his conscious world and his hidden longing for wholeness. This is why men often grieve longer, and why they seem haunted long after she is gone. Society trains women to express their emotions, to gather in circles of support, to weep and speak until healing begins. Men are told to endure, to bury, to move on. But the psyche does not obey social commands. Neuroscience shows us that heartbreak lights up the brain the same way physical pain does. Dopamine pathways once lit up by her presence collapse into silence, oxytocin. The bonding hormone has nowhere to land. The body interprets this as starvation. Yet, biology alone cannot explain the depth of the wound. What men truly mourn is not only her absence, it is the unmasking of their own fragility. Because when she leaves the boy inside, the one who craved his mother's unconditional love, the adolescent terrified of being abandoned, the man who thought strength could shield him from vulnerability, all rise to the surface, demanding recognition. He begins to ask questions that seem about her. Why did she go? Was I not enough? Did she see through me, but beneath them is a darker fear? Perhaps I am unworthy of love itself. This is the labyrinth. A man walks alone after she closes the door. Every memory becomes a projection screen. He replays moments endlessly, as if one small change in the script could reverse her decision. Yet it is not her hand twisting the knife. It is his own ego refusing to surrender control, refusing to accept that love cannot be possessed, only lived. And so, what he feels is not merely the loss of her, but the crumbling of the illusion that someone else could complete him. The pain is unbearable precisely because it forces him to meet himself, the shadows he has avoided, the wounds he has hidden, the emptiness he has tried to fill with her presence. When the woman is gone, a man often believes it is she who has wounded him, that her decision alone has torn his heart to shreds. But here's the paradox. She is no longer the one causing his pain. What hurts him most is the way his own ego clings to her absence, like a drowning man grasping at shadows. The torment comes not from what she did, but from the stories he tells himself afterward. The mind becomes an endless courtroom, cross-examining every memory, replaying every scene as if a different answer could rewrite the verdict. If only I had said this. If only I had held her tighter. If only I had been stronger. These whispers circle endlessly, but they are not her voice. They are the ego's defense against the unbearable truth he is powerless to control another's choice. Neuroscience confirms what Jung intuited long ago. After a breakup, the brain's reward system behaves like that of an addict in withdrawal. Dopamine levels plummet. Cravings spike, and the mind scrambles for relief. This is why he stalks her social media, why he checks his phone at midnight, why every corner of his house seems to echo her name. The chemical hunger is real. Yet deeper than the neurobiology lies the psychic hunger, the refusal of the ego to release its image of her. For in loving her, he invested not only desire, but identity. She became his mirror, reflecting back the man he wanted to believe he was. Without her, the mirror shatters, and he is forced to stare into fragments. This is why men often ask, "Why can't I get over her?" The answer is painful but liberating, because it was never really about her. What you cannot release is not the woman herself, but the projection you cast upon her, the anima you believed could complete you. Jung called this projection one of the most powerful forces in human relationships. We fall not only in love with a person, but with the unacknowledged parts of our own soul that we see in them. When she walks away, those parts feel stolen, as though half of you has been amputated. But they were never hers to carry. They have always belonged to you. When the memories replay and your chest tightens, here is something you can do right now. Stop, breathe, and name what you are feeling. Not in vague terms, but in single words: abandoned, angry, empty. By naming them, you strip them of their power. They stop being nameless monsters in the dark and become signals you can work with. This is the first small step of shadow work, learning to look at what hurts without flinching. Imagine this: she is gone, and yet your mind continues to weave stories around her absence, as though keeping her ghost alive will protect you from emptiness. But the emptiness is not punishment. It is the invitation. Every sleepless night, every unanswered question, every ache in your chest is the psyche knocking on your door, asking you to look within. The woman has left, but the wound she revealed is yours. And here lies the truth. No one tells men the wound is not your enemy. It is the gateway to your becoming. Most men resist this passage. They drown themselves in distractions, work in alcohol casual encounters, endless scrolling, anything to silence the ache. Yet all avoidance does is prolong the suffering. Because until you turn inward, until you face the part of you that feels unworthy, abandoned, incomplete, you will remain chained to her memory. The ego insists she must come back for me to heal. But the soul whispers something else. She left so you would finally return to yourself. If you are listening to this and you feel that tightness in your chest, that restless stirring of recognition, know that you are not weak for hurting. You are simply human standing at the threshold of shadow work. This is where the journey begins, not with her return, but with your willingness to meet the pieces of yourself you once tried to hide. It feels like living in a house. After the fire, the walls still stand, but everything inside has been burned to ash. That's what a man feels. When she leaves, not just loss, but the exposure of everything fragile and unfinished within him. When a relationship ends, most men believe the problem was her or that the relationship simply didn't work. But Jung would remind us that love is rarely so simple. A woman's leaving does more than break your heart. It pulls back the curtain on the very shadows you've been running from. She does not create the wound, she exposes it. She reflects back the pieces of yourself you never wanted to see, the hidden fears, the unhealed boy inside you. That is why her absence feels unbearable, because she carried the mirror that showed you who you really are. Think of how often love magnifies the shadow. A man who fears abandonment clings tighter, and when she pulls away, his panic confirms what he most dreads. A man who doubts his worth becomes controlling, then despises himself when she leaves because he wasn't enough. She is not to blame for awakening these fears. She is the stage upon which they were revealed. This is the cruel but sacred function of love. It illuminates what you keep buried. Jung called this confrontation with the hidden self shadow work. It is the process of turning toward what you fear instead of projecting it outward. When you accuse her of betraying you, of not loving you enough, pause and ask, what part of myself is she showing me? If her leaving makes you feel small, powerless, unwanted, those are not her gifts to you. They are your own shadows, demanding to be acknowledged. Here is a practice you can try tonight. Take a notebook and instead of writing about her, write about the feelings she awakens in you. Write the sentence. When she left, I felt, and complete it without censoring. Keep going until the words surprise you. This is not about her, it is about the voices inside you that have waited years to be heard. By putting them on paper, you stop them from ruling your life in silence. Shadow work is not glamorous. It is messy, humbling, often lonely. But it is also where healing begins. When you allow yourself to see the rage, the fear, the shame, you begin to take back the power you gave away. No longer is she the villain who destroyed you. She becomes the catalyst who forced you to face yourself. And this reframing changes everything. Instead of obsessing over her, you begin to ask, what is this pain trying to teach me? What part of me is asking to be healed? The truth is, relationships are never accidents. The woman you loved, even the one who broke you, arrived in your life for a reason. She played her role in your psyche's unfolding drama. Her leaving was not a punishment, it was an initiation. And this is what a man really feels when she leaves, not just loss, but the shock of meeting his own shadow face to face. Why does silence after she's gone feel louder than any fight you ever had with her? That silence doesn't just echo the absence of her voice, it amplifies the absence inside you that you've always feared. Most men believe heartbreak is about losing a woman, but if you look closer, you'll see the deeper truth. What shatters is not only the bond, it is the ego's illusion that she could complete him. The ego whispers that love is possession, that her presence secures your worth. When she leaves, this fantasy collapses, and what remains is the raw exposure of your own incompleteness. That collapse is devastating, yes, but it is also the most honest mirror the psyche can offer. Notice how quickly the mind tries to rewrite the story. It says, she abandoned me. She betrayed me. She didn't see my value. Yet these accusations are projections, psychological smokescreens to avoid facing what you fear in yourself. Jung observed that what we despise or idolize in others often mirrors what lies hidden in us. If you felt powerless when she left, it may not be her rejection speaking. It may be the voice of the part of you that has always feared being unworthy. Here is the paradox. Projection is not a mistake. It is the psyche's way of revealing what you cannot see directly. You fell in love with her, not only because of who she was, but because of what she carried for you, the tenderness, the mystery, the vitality you had buried inside. And when she walked away, it felt like she stole those qualities. But she did not. They were always yours. Her role was simply to awaken them and then to walk out so you would learn to claim them for yourself. The next time your mind spins in circles, asking, why wasn't I enough? Try. This pause, close your eyes, and instead of chasing her image, ask yourself, what part of me was she reflecting back to me? Write down the answer. It may be softness, creativity, vulnerability, or even rage. By naming the projection, you begin to reclaim what you once outsourced to her. This is how you dismantle the illusion of completion and start building from within. The bridge between heartbreak and healing lies exactly here, in recognizing that she was never meant to be your missing half. The belief that another person can complete you is a story your ego tells to avoid facing its own emptiness. But emptiness is not the enemy. It is the womb of transformation, the place where a truer self can be born. The pain you feel is not punishment. It is the death of an illusion clashing sui for something more real to emerge. And so the question shifts. It is no longer why did she leave, but rather, what part of me am I being invited to meet now? This question transforms heartbreak into initiation. Every ending in love is also a beginning in the soul. And this is what a man really feels: incomplete, shattered, yet standing on the threshold of awakening. It's 2 a.m., and your hand reaches for your phone before you can stop it. Her ghost lives in every notification you hope will appear. That restless pull is not just longing, it is addiction, dressed as love. Have you noticed how heartbreak feels less like sadness and more like obsession? The mind doesn't simply grieve. It circles endlessly like a moth trapped in a flame. This is not weakness. It is the brain's chemistry at work. Neuroscience shows us that love activates the same reward pathways as addictive drugs. When she leaves, the dopamine that once surged at the sight of her dries up and your nervous system crashes into withdrawal. You don't just miss her, you crave her the way an addict craves one more hit. This is why you find yourself checking your phone at midnight, scrolling her photos, replaying old conversations. It feels compulsive because it is. Your brain is trying to repair a broken circuit, searching for the lost surge of reward. But here's the truth. Every time you feed the obsession, every time you peek at her online or rewrite the past in your head, you reinforce the neural loop that keeps you chained to her. Healing begins not with waiting for time to dull the ache, but with breaking the cycle of emotional addiction. The ego resists this truth. It whispers just one more look, one more memory, one more chance. But each indulgence is a trap. The more you reach outward, the further you drift from yourself. Jung would say that this craving is projection in disguise, your psyche chasing after the qualities you have not yet owned within. You don't just want her, you want the aliveness, the intimacy, the sense of mattering that you believe she gave you. But those qualities are not gone. They are waiting for you to reclaim them. Here is something practical you can do. The next time you feel the urge to check her social media or scroll old messages, stop and breathe. Instead of acting on impulse, write down the exact sensation in your body. Tight chest, restless hands, buzzing mind. Then ask yourself, what am I really craving right now? Maybe it's comfort. Maybe it's validation. Maybe it's simply to feel alive again. By naming the craving, you interrupt the addictive loop and redirect the energy back into awareness. This is how obsession begins to lose its grip. Notice the bridge here. When you shift from compulsive craving to conscious awareness, the cycle starts to weaken. The same way an addict learns to face withdrawal. Without relapse, you learn to sit with the discomfort of missing her without needing to feed it. This is not about willpower alone. It is about learning to reinterpret the ache. Instead of a signal to chase her, you begin to treat it as a signal to turn inward. And this shift is profound. What once felt like punishment becomes training. Every restless night becomes an exercise in reclaiming your power. Each wave of craving becomes an opportunity to choose presence over projection. Slowly, you realize you don't actually need her to soothe the ache, you need yourself. And this is what a man really feels in heartbreak. Restless, addicted, haunted, until he learns to turn that craving back toward himself. He doesn't realize it at first, but heartbreak is not the end of him. It is the beginning. What he really feels buried beneath the grief and obsession is the quiet stirring of something waiting to be born. At the start, it feels impossible to see. The pain dominates everything: the empty bed, the silence in the car, the scent of her still clinging to your clothes. Each detail screams loss. Yet, slowly, another truth emerges. What fell apart was not your soul, but the scaffolding of illusions you had built around love. She tore down the false cathedral, and now you stand in the rubble trembling. But rubble is not just destruction. It is also the raw material from which something new can be built. This is why ancient traditions often treated heartbreak, grief, and loss as initiations. The Stoics called it the training of the soul. Jung called it individuation, the process by which the self is reborn from its own collapse. To feel abandoned, humiliated, or emptied is not weakness. It is the psyche cracking open, demanding you grow beyond who you were. Try this instead of asking, "How do I get her back?" Shift the question to, What is being asked of me now? Take 5 minutes today to write one sentence beginning with, because she left. I must. Let the words flow without judgment. Maybe it is. I must finally face my fear of being alone. Maybe it is I must learn to listen to my body. Whatever comes, treat it as a seed of rebirth. This is not self-pity, it is self-discovery. Notice the bridge here once you stop seeing heartbreak as punishment and start treating it as initiation. The feelings shift. The same in emptiness that once suffocated you begins to feel like space. Space to breathe. Space to build space to meet yourself in ways you never have before. Men often resist this stage, clinging to the story that they have been ruined. But what you really feel, if you look closely, is not only pain, it is possibility. Beneath the ache, there is a pulse of freedom. Freedom from the compulsions that tied your worth to someone else. Freedom to carry your own tenderness instead of outsourcing it to her gaze. Freedom to stand for the first time as a man who is whole in himself. And this is the paradox. What he really feels after the collapse is not only grief, not only addiction, not only rage. He feels the terrifying, liberating invitation to be reborn. It is disorienting, even frightening, but it is also sacred. This is the stage where heartbreak transforms from a wound into a doorway. And so what a man really feels when a woman leaves is not only devastation, it is the trembling of rebirth, the slow realization that the end of her is not the end of him. It's strange, isn't it? The very moment that feels like the end of your story is often the one where your real life begins. When she leaves, a man doesn't only feel destroyed, he feels strangely freed, though it takes time for that freedom to reveal itself. At first, this paradox is unbearable. How can freedom come from loss? How can clarity be born from chaos? Yet, if you look closely, you'll see it. The absence of her forces you into the presence of yourself. The pain of being left behind becomes the silence in which you finally hear your own voice. What a man really feels after the storms of grief and obsession settle is a slow awakening, a recognition that he is still here, still breathing, still capable of building a life beyond her shadow. This is where individuation reaches its climax. Jung taught that every loss strips away false identities until the essential self stands unmasked. The man who once defined himself through her eyes now begins to see through his own. He realizes that she was never his completion. She was his reflection, his teacher, his mirror. And now her leaving has handed him back the responsibility of becoming whole. Here is the counsel I give to every man who sits across from me in the aftermath of heartbreak. Stop asking how to win her back and start asking how to reclaim yourself. Do not drown your grief in distractions or numb your silence with noise. Instead, choose stillness. Choose honesty. Choose to look directly at the wound. There you will find not weakness, but the map to your own transformation. The bridge is clear. Once you practice choosing yourself, even in the smallest decisions, you no longer live in pursuit. You live in presence. And presence is the soil in which dignity grows, and in that dignity, something shifts. She is no longer an idol or a ghost. She is simply a chapter in your story. Her leaving was not the end. It was the initiation into your becoming. What you really feel now is not devastation, not obsession, but a grounded calm. You feel capable of standing alone, not as half a man waiting for completion, but as a whole man walking his own path. So, let me leave you with this. You are not broken because she left. You are being remade. You are not unworthy because she chose another path. You are being invited into your own. And remember this, a woman who knows her value does not chase, she chooses. And if this spoke to you, take a moment to share your thoughts below. What part of this journey did you recognize in yourself? I read every comment. And if you want more insights like this on love, on healing, on the hidden depths of the male psyche, Make sure you subscribe. This is not just about learning psychology. It's about reclaiming yourself.